Hello everyone and welcome to Be My Guest with me, Mary Honan, on Media TV supporting the Samaritans, Limerick and Tipperary. And my guest today, in keeping with the Irish dancing theme, is one of Ireland's Irish dancing's most prominent teachers, adjudicators, everything, Annie McBride, examiner. Annie McBride from Oakland, California. Hello, Annie.
Hello, Mary. How are you?
I'm grand via, it has to be said, Donegal.
Right.
Bring me back, Annie, to the very start for you. Where did you start life, if you like?
In Glasgow, Scotland. I was born in Glasgow. My mother and father were from Achill, County Mayo. So we were born there in Glasgow.
So no connection at all to Donegal?
Yeah, my husband was from Downings outside of Letterkenny. And of course the name McBride comes from Donegal because that's my name.
It's a lovely part of the country, Letterkenny.
It is. We love it.
Because I think Chris Domican runs her fesh in Letterkenny up around there. So
yeah, and I knew quite a few of the teachers from there, like Anne Carr and Michael Quigley.
Anne's a friend of mine.
She?
Actually, she's going to ring me tonight. She mothers me. She's ringing me again every night to check that I'm okay.
Well, good. You
My
make sure
roof
you
came in. So Annie, you left Scotland when? Firstly, how did you start Irish dancing?
I started Irish dancing in Glasgow. My mother took me there when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And there was only 2 teachers in Glasgow at that time. And that was Peggy O'Neill, who my mother took me to. And there was another teacher, his name was Charlie Kelly.
Oh yeah, I heard of both.
And I don't know why my mother took me to Peggy O'Neill, but that's where she took me. So I danced for Peggy O'Neill and a lot of the famous teachers that have come and gone, they were senior dancers when I went into Irish dancing in Glasgow. And I danced there until I left to immigrate in 1959.
In 1959?
I immigrated to California.
You're longer probably in California than you were in Scotland, and you could
many more years. Yeah, I'm 60 some odd years here now, and I was 19 when I left Glasgow.
But you can still hear the Glaswegian tones to your voice.
I guess, I was in the American workforce for a very short time, but most of the time my friends, everybody in Irish dancing, they're all from overseas like myself. A lot of them are from overseas like myself. So we kind of weren't in the workforce, so we didn't lose our accents.
Yeah, my grandmother was 50 odd years in England from Wales, and my grandfather moved from Ireland, and neither of the two of them lost their Welsh or Irish accents.
Right.
They were living in England for nearly, I suppose, going on 60 years.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, 60 years, which is a long time,
Right, it is a long time. I'm 62 years in California now.
God. Did you find it hard to adjust to California, or did you go over to an Irish community that was a ready-made Irish community and an Irish dancing community that helped you blend in? Or did you have to make...
Yeah, I was definitely fortunate enough. My sister was here at that time, Lord be good to her, and her husband, and of course my future husband, Eddie, who sent for me, and they were already here for years and they established, so I was lucky. I had people to come to, and then I got a job and things just took off from there. And then Maureen McTaggart Hall from Cork, she apparently was we had a mutual friend. My sister introduced me to a family called the Coakleys, and they were from Cork, and they apparently knew Maureen Hall. So they must have told her about me. And very shortly after I got here, now I can't remember if I heard from Maureen in 59 or 60, but Maureen contacted me one day and said that she was Maureen McTaggart from Cork, and that she had understood that I had done Irish dancing in Glasgow. And I said, yeah, and who do you dance for? And I said, Peggy. Oh, I know Peggy very well, she said. So Maureen and her family had moved over to a little town near Fresno. It was called Firebaugh. And so she wanted to start her class in San Francisco. And because I lived in Oakland close by, she recruited me to join the class and give her a hand. And I would be the local stay. And so I'm actually dancing. I got back in dancing I'm sure 1960 at the latest with Maureen Hall. And I taught and danced for her till 67 when she encouraged me to go start my own school.
But isn't it so important? I mean, I think, I suppose I did my research on the Holocaust and children's experiences. And when you look at the Jewish community and the Irish community, they have so much in common because they always looked after each other. And
exactly.
They always helped each other. And those that survived the Holocaust became family to,
exactly.
Even though they weren't blood relatives, they became the family that they had lost, many of them had lost. And the same with the Irish community, when no matter where they've gone abroad, they always either end up looking for an Irish pub or an Irish dancing class.
Exactly.
And we
kind of
gravitate towards our own.
Right. We gravitate to one another. And it is so good to really have that common bond with, you're in a foreign land and your social life is all gone, your family is all gone, you've come to America and you're building a new life is what you're doing.
It's been very hard at 19 years of age to up sticks and move to America, to the other side, if you're not the other side of the world now, but then you had to get a boat probably.
Yeah. Something, it didn't seem, I think if my family wasn't here, I probably wouldn't have been here, part of my family. But when I came at first, I will admit, I was lonesome because in Glasgow, I was independent and I could go dancing every night if I wanted to and go to lessons. And then I had a job and I was a little Miss Independent, Then I come over here and I have to find a job and I'm staying with my sister and looking after their kids. And it was an adjustment. It really was. The first year, I think if I had the money, I probably would have gone back. I probably would have said, I miss my life, so I want to go back.
Yeah.
But and my husband, Eddie, used to say that to me. He used to say to me, give it some time. Give it some time. You got to give it some time. So the truth is, once I settled in, there was no going back. That was the end of that.
Yeah, you see, you were of Irish blood. Both your parents were Irish.
Right. They were both from Ireland.
I suppose we have that island mentality in a sense that
right.
I was born in the UK, but anytime I came back from England to Ireland, there was this sense when you'd land in Dublin Airport or in Shannon that
right.
you couldn't explain to anybody else, this sense of ache for a land. And I think island people have that more than any other. More than Europeans because they're so big, but people who are kind of pushed out into the Atlantic or out on their own, separated from everybody else, tend to be very close-knit. Even when they go to other countries, they tend to make an Ireland abroad.
I would agree with that 100%. When I was young enough, I was born in 1939, so that's a long, long time ago. So when my mother would take us to Ireland every year, but we'd have to go on a boat.
Yeah.
They would take us on a boat. We'd leave Glasgow on the boat at 6 o'clock in the evening. The boat would sail and it wouldn't dock till 6 o'clock the following morning. And then in order to go down to Mayo, we had to get on a bus. And that was hours on a bus just because the boat docked in Derry, I could tell you a lot of stories.
But we were only talking about that the other day. Who was it talking to about how, when the Australian teachers would come over here to Ireland and then you'd have Irish teachers maybe bringing them somewhere to sightsee and saying, "Would we stay overnight?" And she said, "What are you talking about? This is only like going around the corner, you know."
Exactly.
But to us Irish, I mean, going up to the World Championships every year, you had to plan it from the previous year, because you were going 120 miles by train.
Yeah, and that was like around the world
to an Irish person.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to an American.
There was no worlds in my day, you know.
Yeah.
The most we ever did was go down to England when there was a teacher down there. His name was Ted Kavanagh.
Oh, yeah.
He was in my day too, you know. They were all the teachers in my day.
Did you see the Father Michael Johnston interview I did?
I didn't see it yet, but I did hear you interviewed him. So I'm looking forward to it.
Maura Clerkin last night. She went to Ted Kavanagh as well.
I love Maura very much. She's worked. She's actually worked with our school. She did one of our dance dramas for us, and we got 5 100s when she did it. she's excellent.
Yes.
And then I went to see her one-man show. You know.
Yeah, she's
good. But yeah, she's lovely. I know Maura very well.
What I love about her is, I suppose she has the same interests as I have, because I'm an associate of Victoria College of Drama in London, and so I'd be into drama and I'd be into dance, and obsessed with Irish dancing, and you know, and I love the whole arts, and Maura is exactly the same. She embraces the whole gamut of the artistic world. You know,
so you two are very similar then.
We're very similar. Yeah, we were even saying that last night. But as someone said there, you know, she called me the interviewer, some woman talking to Maura on a post earlier. I had to laugh. She said, "You didn't always agree in the interview, but you respected each other's views," and I liked that. There were things now. She didn't agree with the costumes and the wigs.
No, not nowadays. I know.
I look at my poor miserable head of hair and think, I wish I had a wig when I was going to dancing that you could just put on and.
Well, I will add to the story to confirm your outlook on it, because I was opposed, of course. In my day, it was black tights.
Yeah, me too.
You know, the dresses and you know how we used to roll the hair with the cloth rollers. And
I can still feel the pain.
Yeah, and we had all of that, right? And we used to have to do all that. So then the wigs came in. And when I discovered the wig for the first time was I was just in Colorado, and we went, you know, Maureen Hall was running a fest there, and we were decorating the kids as they came on. The judge would give out the results. So we would decorate the kids. And this little kid, she wouldn't let me put the ribbon over her head. So Michael Bergen, Lord be good to him, he was judging with me, and he was from Ireland, but he was from New York, right? So we came back and the kids said, "That child just won't let us put the medal on her. You know, there has to be a reason." And then he said, "Yeah, I think she's wearing a wig, Annie, and she doesn't want you to knock the wig off, and she doesn't want you to disturb it." And I thought, oh, okay. So we come back, and then everybody else starts wearing wigs. And this particular day, I was adamant, you know, I don't want the wigs. I don't want the wigs. I like the natural look. And, you know, I was going on and on. We were in the teacher's reception room. And I said, well, and we were at Patricia Kennelly's Fashion in Sacramento. And I said, well, you won't see mine with the wigs now. Yeah. So I said, you won't see mine with the wigs. I don't want the wigs. So I was on the stages, and here's one of my own comes up, and she dances her reel, and she dances her light jig, and the next thing she comes up in the slip jig, and her hair is out to here. I thought, what is that? So the mother went off and bought a wig, you see. And she put it on her during the competition. So I came to bed, they were all giving me a lot of slagging when I got back to the room. So your girls won't be wearing wigs, will they not?
And the longer you're talking,
the
to me, the more Scottish you're becoming.
Oh, do you think so?
I do.
Everybody thinks that's from Donegal because, well, when I started the school, I was married and my name was McBride. And so I thought, McBride is from Donegal, so I'm just going to portray the Donegal theme.
Well, it's a very similar accent. It's the same as the Cork
Right.
accent, and my father's accent would have been a mixture of Welsh and English. So he would have sounded, everyone used to say he sounded like Anthony Hopkins, that Welsh English accent, but he never lost his accent. And and I think the Welsh and the Cork accent is very similar, and I think the Donegal and the Scottish accent is very similar. So
they are. Indeed. I had a lot of dear friends in Glasgow, and their parents were all from Donegal. Yeah, Donegal.
Yeah, they're Irish people who could swim.
Yeah, I would think so. But here's one that didn't learn how to swim. My husband Eddie didn't learn how to swim either, and he had water all around him. He was born near the Atlantic Drive.
Did he find it difficult transitioning over to the US, or did he settle quicker than you?
Well, he was settled before I got here. Eddie came in 1956. And he was pretty settled, and he was working for a plumbing company. And he had Eddie. I have no relatives here in California.
I could have
every relative that's connected to us. Everybody that's connected is connected through Eddie. So Eddie had family here, and he had a very dear cousin.
I could have done with him 2 nights ago.
Yeah, I bet you could have. He would have come in handy, and my 2 sons would have too. They learned to be plumbers as well.
I was on the phone when I looked, my ceiling had just come in on top of me.
So was that because of the heavy rains?
Well, it was heavy rain, but I have no idea what happened. It's a pitched roof, and it was a brand.
The weight of the water. I would guess, being married to a plumber, I would guess the weight of the water is what collapsed your roof.
Jesus, if you saw the state of it
if
now.
It accumulated up there, say you had clogged gutters or something, it would have just
I
collapsed.
Just walked out and said I'd do the interviews, and I left it.
I was expecting you to call up and say, no way, I got tempted.
This always came first.
Right.
But Annie, what changes have you seen in the 60 years or more that you've been dancing? You've obviously been dancing longer than you're in America. So
right.
This, just say 70 years that you've been involved in Irish dancing. What changes have you seen? That good or the bad? What do you not like? Is there something about the way Irish dancing has gone that you don't like?
I wouldn't say I don't like it, but I would say I find it kind of like more pageantry nowadays.
Yeah.
And and of course when we were young and Irish dancing, it was my mother said to Peggy O'Neill she wanted me to go do something, and my mom said, oh no, she says, I'm bringing Annie here for her own pleasure. The competition is a lot greater today, and that's not, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think it's right now it's an investment. The financial, the cost of the costumes, the cost of the shoes, then there's the travel, and you've got the hotels, and you've got the airfares. I think it's expensive for people to be in Irish dancing today. I would like to have seen it stay a little bit more accessible to us all.
We were talking about that last night, Maura and myself, or was it the night before? They're all paling into one now since my roof came in. But Maura and I were talking, and she thinks it's gone prohibitively expensive. And part of me thinks so too. But then another part of me thinks if I was competing now as the only child of an only child, my mother would have actually done all of those things for me,
Exactly.
even though she only had half a wage because Dad was in England. So half his wage
Mhm.
went to his mother and half was sent to Mam's. But she would have done it. But that's not to say that it's still not expensive. But then you've got to, I suppose, work out in your head, what's the alternative? Could you be bailing your child out of jail? Could you be putting them into rehab? Could you be trying to separate
Exactly.
from bad company? And the
I'm
first
with you.
costume is usually the most expensive.
I have mixed feelings. I have
Yes.
sympathy for the costume and all of that. At the same time, for me, I take great pleasure in seeing how far the Irish dancing has come.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I take great pleasure in it. I mean, even starting my own class in 1967, and now here it's 2020, and my boys and girls have been on the world stage, and they've been traveling to parts of the world that they never would have gone to unless they were an Irish dancer.
Education as well as anything.
And I think, yeah, I mean, I have great praise for Irish dancing, and I have great praise for the commission.
Oh, yeah.
And because I mean, we started out with little to nothing and built it to where it is today. And there's a grand stage. And then Michael Flatley made his contribution when he did the river dance. I mean, really, I think we can be proud of
that. How big do you think that contribution was, Annie?
Oh, I think Michael Flatley made a big contribution. You know me, when I would be talking, I'd say, well, we always knew we were great. Now you know it. You know, yeah. Mike Flatley brought world attention to Irish dancing, and then he took it and he took away the idea that it was all competition, and he built it into enjoyment. And
he actually made you believe that
he really made our culture.
There was more to your career than ending when you were 18 and ending. A lot of people. Right. I was 3 when I finished performing. I went into Bunratty Castle for 14 years after competition.
Thank you.
And I was 7 nights a week there, 2 shows a night. But most people gave up after they came to senior level. They gave up dancing, and that was it for them.
Exactly.
And I suppose I was fortunate in that respect. And then Riverdance came and showed youngsters that their dancing doesn't have to end. They can make money out of it and travel.
You have it. Now, Michael Flatley's teacher, and I'm going to give you a story now you may have heard before, you may not. Michael Flatley danced for Dennis Dennehy in New York. Dennis and Marge Dennehy, right? Yeah. So Dennis and I judged a fesh together, and I can't even remember what fesh, but we judged a fesh. We were out for dinner and we were chatting because it was just at the time Michael Flatley was starting up the shows.
Yeah.
Dennis Dennehy told me that he knew the day Michael Flatley came into class and he got him to jump that this guy was going to be good. So then Michael Flatley won the world championships.
That's right. I was 3 years younger.
And I got this from Dennis. Michael Flatley came off the stage and he said to Dennis Dennehy, "What do we do now? Where do we go now?" Because he had gotten to the top. And Dennis said, he answered him, "Nothing now. You've made it to the top of your profession. You'll do what the rest of us do. You'll pass it on, and you'll teach it to the generation." And Michael Flatley turned to Dennis Dennehy and he says, "Oh no, there has to be more."
Yeah.
He says, "There has to be more." He says, "I have visions of an Irish dancing show in the Radio City Music Hall in New York." And Dennis said, he said, "You'll be just passing it on like the rest of us." And I said to Dennis, "Now, weren't you wrong?"
Yeah, but I can understand that drive.
Michael, Dennis,
I can understand that drive that Michael Flatley has. I have that drive, but I'm not successful. But I still have that drive to succeed and to do things. And I see things that can be done, and we can do this and we can do that.
Of course we can.
I haven't made the money Michael Flatley has made. Do you know?
No, he made.
Or being as successful. He is utterly driven, and you have to admire that.
Sure.
it needed somebody like him to bring it to
definitely.
an international stage.
He got the platform for it. But I think that we all have to bear in mind, if Eurovision Song Contest, if Ireland hadn't won the Eurovision Song Contest, there might not have been a river dance.
Look, I think it was really a symbiotic relationship between the two. I think everything, the stars were aligned that night. You had rock and roll kids. Rock and roll kids, to me, will always be the greatest Eurovision winning song ever of any country, because it resonated with people. Anyone who had grown older and was remembering their youth. And that was the song that was there that night. Riverdance was on the stage that night. Ireland was after winning it for the third time, I think it was at that stage. Mm-hmm. And the stars were all aligned, and I think Riverdance got people out to vote for Ireland and help Charlie McGettigan and them to win, as well as they helping Riverdance to succeed. Because I think without the two of them, without the song and without the Riverdance,
it was a perfect combination. Perfect.
It was just,
and I think, I mean, we can all sit back now. I'm happy to say that I'm part of all of that. I mean, we started out even in San Francisco. We didn't have a region when I came here. There was no region. Maureen Holland and the other 5 teachers in the area, we got we're the
founders of Irish dancing.
Of the Western region. I am. Yeah. And but the connection kept getting better and better, because the people in San Francisco, we felt like, New York was halfway there and we were away at the other end of the world. We were kind of like feeling they don't even know we exist attitude, and then all of a sudden it all came together. And I have to say, I have to give a lot of credit to Maureen. They call her Maureen McPeckard, but we called her Maureen Hall, right? Maureen Hall, when she came out here, she was a member of the commission.
Yeah, she was.
We weren't. We were dancing, but we weren't a member of the commission. And the next thing with letters back and forth and this and that, the commission sent an examiner, and then the local teachers, such as myself, we became registered members. In 1967, I became a TCRG. And Maureen Hall is the one that pushed me. I was saying, oh, Maureen, I've got 2 kids and I don't know how much longer I can continue to do. Annie, the test is coming to you. You don't have to go to the test. And, Maureen pushed me into it. In 1975, I took the 80. So that all came. So in the meantime, the commission allowed us to apply for the Western region. I think, not sure what year really, to be honest, that the Western region became a region.
Yeah.
But when I came here, there was only 5 dancing schools in San Francisco. And of course, there's a ton of us now.
Is it all commission in?
Yeah, we're all commission.
What Niall O'Leary brought up about the open platform, and apparently it was an old post he had up on Facebook that managed to resurface, and it's taken legs. And I've asked nearly, I suppose, a lot of people what their views on open platforms are, given that you would have gone through the era when, as John Honan said to me, it was the most desperate thing to ever happen was the split between An Comisiún and An Comhdháil, and he told the history of it. Do you think that in Irish dancing now for say An Comhdháil and CRN to dancers to compete in competitions with An Comisiún dancers, or do you think we've all just got so big that it would be just prohibitive?
Well, my personal opinion is I would personally not have any objections that if my kids were to say they were somewhere and there was a Comhdháil crash, if they were eligible, but I would not sanction them going against the CRG rule.
No. No, I'm just
that.
the question.
Personally, wouldn't have any objection to intermingling. You know,
yeah, that's the question. Do you see a room for, say, all the organizations to get together and say, you know, because there's some areas that you've only maybe one commission teacher and one CRN, and neither of them have enough competition. Should they be able to?
See, that's where I'm sympathetic to that. I would be sympathetic to that.
Yeah, so am I. I mean, on a human level, I mean, children need.
I would definitely be sympathetic to that. If there's no access for the kids to have their togetherness, as I call it, then by all means let them do it. I mean, it's what harm is it going to do?
All Irish. But John Honan now feels, he said, Mary, imagine, he said, we were having a world championships with all of the organizations. It would last about 3 weeks because it would get so big. But then Kathleen and James were talking yesterday about the decline of teams in competitions and how figures don't seem to be as big as they were. And I was saying, if it was opened up to other organizations and commission and COGOL and CRN, maybe there'd be more teams competing again, and you'd have a resurgence of teams. But you know, again, are we all gone too big? Especially now that we're in Europe and we're in Israel and we're in South Africa and we're in every country nearly now. It's gone enormous. Would it be just too big?
It's definitely throughout the world now. But going back to the commission, I can understand where John Cullinan and them are coming from, because the commission, John was he was active in the commission. I'm a member of the commission, but I wasn't in Ireland going to the meetings and helping set it all up. But I understand, you know, you have to make a concrete decision. I mean, you can't really. I wasn't suggesting that we have a world championship in union with the COGOL or any of them.
No.
Right?
I was
maybe an open platform where, you know, once a year the kids could just meet each other or have a competition in an area that's not quite as big as another area. And I mean, I would be fine with that. I understand where he's coming from, that we have to have that stability, that we belong to this organization. This is our rules. This is our regulations. This is how we do it. You know, I get all that. But I don't think it would do any harm to have, say, a summer fetch.
Yeah, and Bern Gibbons was saying to me that she thinks that it could be, you could have a festival where children could take part in music and dance and singing and everything, but she doesn't see the competition being the way to go. But John Cullinan was part of it. Gary Healy was saying to me, he finds that you know, that, say, the association rule is prohibiting people from running their businesses because it's like if you have two supermarkets and you have a hierarchy telling you can't sell this because they're selling it. He said, you know, if I'm, as a lawyer, I can be a member of A, B, C, D, E, F, and G law society and earn a living. But with on commission, he said, you can only be part of on commission. You can't be part of on COGOL. Now, John was saying that when COGOL and commission started, they were part of both. John was a member of COGOL and he was a member of commission, and then COGOL wanted them to stop being members of on commission. And he said it split Cork completely. Limerick stayed together and all went commission, but you had Cork then split, and you had families fighting in-house with family members because John and his sister went with on commission. All the other great teachers, he said, went with on COGOL. And caused a huge rift. He said it was the biggest mistake ever was the split. And you're just wondering in times like this, how much the Zoom since COVID, that we've started seeing each other in different lights, seeing people as beyond competition.
Yeah, well, mentioning COVID, it's definitely changed Irish dancing for now anyway. It's COVID has made a big dent in our organization. It really has. And it's nobody's fault, it's an act of nature, and we just have to persevere. If it wasn't for my daughter Eileen, we wouldn't be doing the Zoom classes, but thanks to Eileen. Now, if it was up to Annie, the McBride school would not be doing Zoom classes because I wouldn't be fit to do that. But my daughter Eileen, thankfully, and she is a TCRG, so luckily for me, Eileen has all these technologies down, and she's kept the classes going. And we have 50 or 60 kids, and that's not as many as we have in the class. A lot of them prefer not to do the Zoom, and we've lost them for now, and hopefully they'll come back when the classes resume again. But if it wasn't for Eileen and young teachers like her, Zoom wouldn't even be possible.
But it's also what I'm saying in relation to the open platform. It's also introduced me, I suppose, to people who have
Exactly.
who have sent messages to me privately and asked me could they be on the show. People who were members of, say, on Cogal, CRN, and they want to talk, or people who were CLRG who are now CRN or whatever because of the reasons they're in. And I know my best friend's daughter was on Cogal because her teacher was Cogal commission and went back to Cogal. So
right. Well,
my friend's daughter ended up with starting with commission but ending up with Cogal. But other than that, I knew nobody from on Cogal and or CRN, and I'm having a doctor come on in the next week from CRN to talk about, he's American, to talk about his organization. To be honest with you, I don't know anything about CRN. I don't be part of any organization, not on Commission. Commission, I've never been part of anything other than on Commission, nor would I want to be. But I think I think Zoom has actually, or the internet, or COVID-19 has allowed us the space to get to know each other.
Yes. Well, when I took my TC with Commission.
Me too.
Well, I was still working with Maureen Hall, and Maureen, sister Peggy from Cork, they were into Cogal, so they came out here and that, nowadays they're saying that they're introducing the Cogal more in the States. They introduced it back in those years.
Yeah.
They introduced it then. So Maureen's class, and because I was a member of Maureen's class, we went Cogal. I took my AD with Cogal.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Oh,
I did.
Interesting.
But that's because we thought Cogal was going to catch on at that time. And, Maureen and Cogal was leaving Ireland and coming to the States, and we thought that was the way to go. So I did do my AD with Cogal. However,
that's interesting.
Later on, when I started my own school, I went back to Commission because Cogal didn't quite take on here in San Francisco, so my kids wouldn't have had any. They wouldn't have any questions or anything. Yeah. So I returned. I just thought it was in the best interest of the class to go back to the CLRG, and that's what I did. So I'm one of those people that when they first started to bring Cogal over, I was a member then. But nowadays, I think both organizations they're big and they're successful. And I think the Cogal doesn't really need us, and we don't really need them. But at the same time, if we can coexist.
Coexist, yeah, that's exactly it.
If
No,
we can coexist,
you know,
and if we can,
I'm a great
sorry.
believer in not seeing division, in seeing unification.
Exactly.
Some way.
We can coexist, and like I said, an odd platform now and again. Oh, this is that's the one festival that we can go meet the other side.
The other side, I know. Yeah. It just
would be okay.
It just is this moment kind of seems like a them and us, when in actual fact we're all doing the one thing, which is trying to promote Irish culture and Irish dance. So there should be at least one event in the year that you can all join forces and have a celebration of Irish dance.
Mm-hmm. Optional, because I said this many years ago, we're bringing our Irish dancing to a foreign land, and we're trying to get American children to help us keep our Irish culture going here in California, right?
I mean, in Riverdale,
my love is here. It is still here, and it will always be here for Irish dancing. I always had love for the dancing. I still do. I still enjoy it. I ask myself every year, should I retire or should I keep going?
Do you think because you made that move to America that Irish dance has become almost more important to you than it might have been if you had stayed in Scotland, because you might have had other things, whereas the Irish dancing was what rooted you in your new community and but kept you completely connected also to your past? Do you know it?
I agree with that. Yes, I don't know that in Glasgow, if I'd have stayed in Glasgow and had gotten married and done the normal course of events, settled down in Glasgow, I doubt if I'd have become an Irish dancing teacher. I wouldn't have had Maureen Hall's encouragement. I wouldn't have had, Maureen McTaggart. I mean, to me, she was like, she's done more for the commission and people, and Irish dancing than anybody else.
I'm trying to get her on. I'm trying to get her on the show.
So, well, Maureen herself is gone. She passed away 3 years ago.
No, not Maureen.
But we're talking Pat.
Pat.
We're talking about her oldest daughter. Yeah, and she's a lovely girl too. You'll enjoy her greatly. She's great, and she's following in the mother's footsteps. She's very, very active. And Maureen has another daughter, Anne, who lives in Colorado, and she also is very, very active. And they're very active. They're very active in the commission, and they do a lot of good work for Irish dancing.
Yeah, no, I know Annie, and they ran a fesh there recently. Annie ran a fesh.
They did last weekend. Yeah,
very successful, I believe.
Yeah, Chris McLaughlin played at it, and yeah, it was great, and it was outdoors. But you see, the trouble here in California to do an outdoor fesh, the weather, it's 108 degrees. For us to try and get a facility and do an outdoor.
You have miserable lives, not having to worry about umbrellas.
Exactly. I mean, just the county, it's not just a matter of being a member of the commission and getting a registered fesh. You have to deal now with the COVID. You have to deal with the state of California. You have to deal with the county in which you're trying to hold the event. I mean, it's not just a matter of an Irish dancing teacher deciding to. I mean, my fesh would be 39 years old this year. I'm still on the fence of whether we can proceed or we can't. We keep waiting
mine. I had to cancel mine, and this was its 18th year. And
it's tough.
I had to cancel it. It's due to be on at the end of September, and I looked at the program now that they sent out the other day, and barring two festina that haven't decided yet, the rest of the calendar has been wiped out, cancelled.
I know it.
COVID, cancelled due to COVID, cancelled due to COVID. It's pretty sad. And yesterday, it has to be said, I suppose, yesterday our Prime Minister came out and it was nothing short of tragic and ill-informed drivel that he came out with, to be honest with you, because nobody is any the wiser. You're only allowed now to have 5 children inside in your dancing class, but you can have 30 children inside in a class, and you can have 50 inside in a church, and you can go into a pub if you're selling food over €9, but you can't go into a pub if they don't serve food in excess of €9. So the virus is supposed to know that you're eating food in excess of €9, and then you're allowed in. The whole thing is just, and it's destroying the arts. I had Tommy Fleming on, who's a famous singer all over the world. And Tommy, I've never seen, I interviewed him before, and he was so upbeat the first time I interviewed him, but the last time it was all about the effect it's having of not knowing what's happening on the arts.
Right.
And Irish dancing's our culture. It's our culture. It brings tourism to the country. Yet they're leaving the borders open, and they're leaving the flights open, and there's 80 odd flights a day coming in. They're all right.
So you can fly into Ireland?
Oh, you can fly into Ireland. You can fly out of Ireland. You're told when you come in, if you have any symptoms, go and quarantine. But sure, people are getting on buses, getting into taxis at the airport, going home, doing their own thing. There's no check to see they've quarantined, and yet Irish dancing teachers can't have any more than 5 children, no matter how big their hall is.
But have they got their halls opened up again? We haven't even got that.
No, because the goalpost has been moved every month. We were told it was going to be June, then it was July, then it was August, now it's September.
Well, that's what we're hoping for. We were hoping for August, and that didn't happen. I never turned the lock on the key on the door of my dance studio since March the 14th.
And I don't get it because dancing schools, if they're doing solo dancing, they're well away. They have to maintain a distance from each other, otherwise they'll fall, they'll crash. We're well used.
Well, they don't have to
stay away from each other when they're dancing, but yet they'll allow 50 at a wedding party, but they won't allow more than 15 inside in a house party.
No, and they didn't let. I had a nephew die in Glasgow of the COVID. The poor Danny. He was only 59 years old, and he died of COVID. They wouldn't allow 10 at his funeral.
Here the same, and yet they'll allow 50 at a wedding, who are all in close contact with each other, but they'll only allow 5 children into an Irish dancing class.
Yeah.
The logic is just
it's not there.
To be done, and I've invited a few of the teachers on. I said, if any teacher wants to come on to talk about the effect that COVID has, or the lack of information, the lack of clarity has on Irish dancing schools and our culture, that we can come on and have this debate and bring it to an international forum.
They don't even know where we belong. We don't belong in the schools. We don't belong. The activity isn't on their listing, so they don't know where to fit us in. They just don't know what they've told us that here in California. They don't know what category to fit into.
But you should fit into the category of culture.
Yeah.
You should fit into the category of the arts.
Well, if they have that available, but if it's not on their list, so we'll go back at them now and ask a few more questions. But,
It's not on the list.
Eileen's telling me now in the background that it's not on the list. She's inquired.
It's
all right.
utter madness, but you'd expect it to be on a list here in Ireland. It's our Irish culture.
Yeah.
we understand it more from.
Yeah, well, you would.
It's of Ireland, and they should understand that from a mental health point of view for children who've already complied with everything that they've been told to do. They're told they can go back to school in this country, but there's only 30 allowed into the class, and they're told to wear these masks, which, you know, and yet they're being told now that they're going to get breathing breaks every hour. I think they'll get a breathing break. If the mask is doing its job, why do they need a breathing break?
Okay, and also, where will they go to breathe?
Where will they go to breathe? They're not allowed. Do you know, I mean,
and we'll go together.
I think they're making it up as they go along.
I don't think they know how to handle it, to be honest with you. I don't think they do. What were you saying, Eileen, about they said we fitted into what category?
I don't want to jump in on your interview.
No, you're not.
So when I called the city, the county, and the state, we either fit into fitness studio, or because we primarily teach children day camps, and all three government agencies that I called basically said I had to choose which one I thought best suited what we did. So our fitness studios are fully shut down. If we fall into children's camps, we can have what Ireland has, 6 dancers at a time, but we have to have social distancing and filtration in the studio. And we can only keep the same 6 children meeting in the same class. So if I have an open class with 6 dancers and I want to have that open class 5 days a week, only those 6 dancers.
6 dancers.
So I asked Eileen to explain that to you, because she's been doing all the connections with this city and state, you know, and the county. They just won't, they said they didn't have a category for us.
But what category have they, say, for instance, just say African dance or other cultural dances, American ballet, tribal dance. It's all part of culture. So surely it should fit into cultural, into the cultural activity.
They're not offering that.
There's not a category for that, and there's not a category for even dance studios specific, like a general dance studio. Not in the state of California, not in the counties in which we teach, or the cities.
And I mean, by virtue, Eileen, of our type of dancing, unlike any other form of dance, there is no physical connection unless you do teams. And if you have the class completely to solos, they have to maintain, by virtue of the style of our dancing, we have to maintain a social distance from the other dancer on the stage. Otherwise, you're eliminated, or you're penalized, or you're
you'd be
injured.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're a very safe form of of dance, because unless we do teams, there is no communication between our dancers. I mean, somebody needs to, at an international level, Irish dancing needs to be clarified at that. I think when people are looking at it, they're still thinking of river dance and the connections, but what they're not seeing is how competitions are run, and perhaps at an international level, there needs to be a forum set up that that lobbies governments about the importance and the safety, how safe Irish dancing is.
I would love to be part of that if you're going to do something like that.
If you're going, meetings on that, we'll take part of
like that. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd love. I have no problem with Be My Guest being a medium through which maybe people can come on. A group of people can come on at a time, maybe 6 people at a time or more, and come in via Zoom and talk and get the information. So if you have people who want to come on, please let them know. My show will facilitate it.
Well, thank you. That's a great offer, that we could maybe get some voices and share ideas and
So I mean, if there's 5 or 6 people,
and explain the situation.
Yeah, because there's a big gap that's financially. Like, we have all these stimulus packages for businesses, but you have to have employees to qualify for those. So if you're an independent sole proprietor, which a lot of dance instructors or other forms of the arts are, it's really difficult to get any of the federal assistance. But if you're a multimillionaire like Kanye West, that's reaching Forbes billionaire status, he was able to get $5 million for payroll expenses. So it almost feels to me, and I don't really know how to generate it, but it's an idea I've had, is there a way to set up like a nonprofit to assist the dance, specific to Irish dance is probably what I would.
Excellent idea, Annie or Eileen. Excellent idea. I'd gladly be part of that. If you were thinking of, or if there's teachers out there who are actually listening to this all over the world and want to get a group to come together and come on, and we talk about it and try and get the word out and maybe develop something from it that we lobby internationally, governments, because this has to be lobbied on an international. Irish dancing is global, and it has to be lobbied, and we have to have, I suppose, some sense of be treated differently, I suppose, from others, because we are straddling culture, we're straddling health, and we're straddling children's activities. So we are unique in that we are wholly cultural. It's far more than just an activity. It's something that bridges communities together.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I do think I will put a post up saying that if there's anybody, and if you know of anyone who'd like to come on with you, and we could start the dialogue.
That would be great.
That would be awesome. Yeah. I'd be totally down to do that.
And I'd make a my spokesperson.
Could be the spokesperson.
But she's got all these.
Who?
She's got these great ideas, and I mean, it's just for the benefit of us all.
Eileen would be great.
The ideas that we're trying to share here are to benefit everyone.
Now, Mary McCarthy was saying today on Facebook, she was talking as well. Now, I brought it up, this subject had been brought up on my show a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, about COVID-19, the effect it's having on Irish dance in schools, and the lack of clarity that we're getting. But Mary McCarthy was talking about it, and so was Carmel Lawrence. And Carmel has lobbied her Sinn Féin councillor about it, and they're trying to do something. So I said to Mary McCarthy if she wanted to come on and chat with me, and she said she'll get back once she's talked to a few teachers to see if she can actually speak on their behalf. But I said, speak on your own behalf, I'll speak on mine. I know Linda Ball wants to come on and talk about her life in dancing, but I'll ask Linda, would she be interested? But if you know of teachers who'd like to come on and talk about how the governments need to help Irish dancing schools and cultural groups.
Definitely, we'll look into it. For sure.
That would be great, and we can all look into that now. And our goal is to promote Irish culture through dance. That's it. The whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
And every time I take the kids out and do a demonstration of Irish dancing, I always tell them the purpose of the McBride School, when I set it up, was to promote Irish culture through dance.
Yeah.
And that's really
I think it could be very good, because we could do a series of them, if you like. If you had 6 people on and 6 more people wanted to come on at one stage, then you could put them all together in a package, and you could have maybe a 3-hour forum of 60, 3 6s, 2 6, 18 people, or any amount of people, and we could put through a package and send it to different
that would be great. And it would be nice if we got a good response. And if you got a good response, you could allow time for everybody to have an opportunity to view their opinions.
Everyone now that has been on my show so far could all come back on it and
Exactly.
talk about their opinions.
Yes.
Michael Dillon was my very first guest.
Was he?
Yeah.
I know. Well, he's here in California.
I love Michael. You know,
Yeah.
he was always very good to me here in Ireland, and as a teacher, and you know, very, very respectful, very nice, you know, and very, very nice guy, and was in America. When he went to America, it was a great disappointment, you know, because he was such a good teacher, and he had such fantastic ideas that actually brought taught many of us who started up Feshina, gave us great ideas. I know it gave me great ideas because he just be very forward thinking. But yeah, he was my first guest, and then I had David Gainey, and after that, it just took off.
Took off. You've done a lot of guests now. Had a lot of guests, I should say.
Yeah,
so.
and I hope it continues. I
had
hope
a lot of guests.
Harry and Philip, of course, were on, and they were fantastic.
Yeah, and I know them very well as well.
They're fantastic.
I think nearly all of your guests. I've known most of them. Carol Scanlon.
Carol Scanlon. She was fabulous. Margaret, Patricia Kennelly.
Yeah, and did you have O'Connell?
Sally Houston.
Sally.
June Deegan.
Yeah.
Danny Doherty.
Yeah, one of my best friends.
Gavin Doherty.
Yeah, and I know.
Jan Curry Henderson.
I'm not sure if I've met her or not.
Australia. God, she's a formidable lady.
Maybe not. Yeah.
She's something else. She's fabulous. She just pulls no punches.
That's great.
She's one of the founders of Irish dancing in her region in Australia.
Yeah. Have you been in Australia? Have you gone? Have you been over to Australia?
No.
No, neither. No.
I haven't been. I've only ever judged a few Feshina in America, and I've done the Mid-Atlantic qualifiers. So far, I haven't done any other qualifiers in the States, or I've never been to Canada. Canada is a dream for me. I don't know why. I think it's watching Nelson.
Hopefully, some when the Feshes
McDonald. Huh?
Yeah. Well, now that we know you're an adjudicator, you could always maybe make it to California.
Oh, would love it. But you know, Nelson Eddy and Janet McDonald. When I'm calling you, that's
when I call you.
Canada.
Yeah, I remember them from my young days.
My mother loved them. But Annie, thank you so very much for coming on, and get cracking on finding out if anyone wants to come on and talk about. And Annie can or Eileen can.
Definitely, and that's my head girl here because she will make it happen.
Eileen, get cracking.
Yeah.
Okay, I will definitely do that. It was lovely to meet you.
It was nice to meet you, Eileen. Thanks for having me on.
Pop your head in there, Eileen.
She says pop your head in.
Oh, okay, well, sorry.
She's working from home.
Yeah, COVID has me working from home for dance and my day job. So.
Hi, Eileen. How are you?
Good. I've been sending you lots of pictures while you've been talking, so I finally got that done.
Oh, great. Great. I never actually got to showing the actual before we, the backdrops, choose a virtual backdrop. That's the second one that I had.
Oh, that was nice.
That's great. This one is my granddaughter.
Yeah. So that when she's
and that's
little.
My granddaughter when she was little.
Okay. And then I have those ones.
Oh, yeah.
And the green costumes was my first costumes. It's got the harp and shamrock on the back of the shawl.
Wow.
I came out with green and cream. That was in my day to represent the Irish. It was
Irish, and then the coloured ones are lovely. It looks like a folk costume.
Yes. It was. We danced with Shay Black, actually. Mary Black. We danced with her brother. We were in the Christmas revels here in California. We represented Ireland. It was a whole Irish theme of immigration. and we were the dancers. So we put them in the more traditional type costumes for that show.
And there's Annie McBride's History in Irish Dance.
Yeah. Well, lovely to meet you. I hope you're.
Before we go, you got a Gradam Award last year.
I did in North Carolina, along with a few others, the people from our region.
Explain to people who don't know what the Gradam is.
Well, the Gradam Award, I was honoured to be picked. I guess your own region recommends to, and then the commission, they honoured us with a nice plaque and so on, and they called us into North Carolina at the World Championships, and they honoured us. Yeah, and I was the only living member, founding member, still there.
My friend June Deegan, she got one as well from London during the London Worlds. Do you know June
Did
Deegan?
she?
Do you know June?
I have heard of her. I don't know her, but I have heard of her.
You have to meet June. One scene never forgotten.
I'd love to.
Gorgeous.
I love meeting people that have put in as many years as myself and enjoyed it.
Annie, thank you very, very much for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
And you cheered me up immensely. God bless.
Oh, good. Good luck with the house.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, dear.
Bye.